Hey, what's up? Dean's here, Performance, and we are at the shop today, laughing a little bit because we have old school, not really old school, but this was a car that raced with us at Sebring International when we did the drag racing there, and this was, I guess you could say, one of the most hated cars because everybody kind of feared it in a sense for what it is and what it does. Doesn't ever make sense to me why. I'll just show you. This is Mike's Foxbody, and it is literally a junkyard 5.3. I don't think it's ever been opened until just recently. Car has been sitting for a while, so it's much worse now, looks wise. All the dust bunnies and all that good crap get all over everything. But this car, basically how it sits, like I said, bone stock 5.3. I think it has a little John cam. And then I believe, I don't even know, but I believe this is a forced induction turbo. Does have an intercooler and radiator sitting inside. Yeah, it's got a Griffin radiator. It's got a big old air-to-air intercooler. Bunch of couplings for the intake charge pipe. There's a bunch of stuff in there. There's not much to the cage. It's what we would call a 6-point back in the day. It's got the main hoop, 2 door bars, and then 2 rear bars that come back, and go down. But she is dirty. And I nicknamed this car back in the day the Dirty Sanchez because I just thought it was hilarious. There's not much to this car. This is more or less a stock car that was just kind of stuck together. I mean, this was your epitome of budget car. He's got really nothing major bought for the car. He was on a stock ECU, like a 0411 or something like that, and the car was tuned by Faster Proms. As far as I remember, it was tuned by Faster Proms. But now he's switching over to the Holley Terminator X, which Ryan he took the motor apart. Because you would swear this thing would have to have holes in the pistons and holes in the cylinders, but it looks really good inside, so it's basically put right back together. It's not fully put back together yet. There's no head bolts or nothing. He assembled it because they're getting it up here. He wants to do the tube front end to it. So we are going to take and cut the unibody rails off here, get the tubes coming out, and then most likely what I want to do is clean all this up in here, get all this cleaned up, square it as much as I can, and then I want to keep these top bars closer, kind of tighter, not closer, but tighter to the fender, and then bring it down because I do have to make a tab to come off for the fenders. So yeah. I don't know. This car makes me laugh because for what it did, this was a fast car. When we raced at Sebring, I think he was deep in the 5s. Like mid 5s in the 8th. Like I said, it's a bone stock 5.3. Literally has the cast iron manifolds. Not much of a, I mean, I wouldn't say this is a professional turbo kit. You can see where they did the bend here. Well, what should have been a bend is 2 straight pipes cut on 2 angles to make that bend. You got bends over here, and then you got the wastegate in right below the turbo flange, which is not the way the wastegate sits, like directly off the flange like that. It's not the ideal situation for a wastegate because it's not in line with the flow. But I never heard of them having like a boost creep issue. I don't know if the car does or didn't. So I am gonna get to work right now on cutting the rest of this front off. You got to be careful of a bunch of braided lines that are just for not sure, but we'll keep them out of the way. We'll keep any of the wiring out of the way. He won't need these O2s. These are like factory O2s that I would assume he ran on the factory ECU. Oh, that's nasty. Oh, that's nasty. Come on, Mike. That's just nasty. So I'll get all this stuff wiped down. I'm not sure if a dog lived on this, but yep. Get that there. There is a fuel line. You can see the return side kind of tucks back in. I don't know where it goes. Oh, I see it down there by the strut. You can kind of see it in there. But yeah, I'll get this all cleaned up, and then I'll start working on getting everything plated off. And go from there. So yeah, let's see what we can get done. You gotta keep in mind where the K-member bolts. Okay, so it bolts directly underneath. So yeah, I'm gonna figure out where exactly to come down on the front of the strut tower there. Is the way it's pinch welded in and everything. So we may have to come in front of it just a hair, plate that off, maybe gusset it up to the strut tower a little bit. I'll figure it out. I think the biggest challenge is going to get the tubes inside of here. Man, a couple ideas. I might go all the way back to that hole. I can't really see it. That hole right there at the end of the finger shadow. I might go all the way back to that hole, but I'm not sure. Yeah, these were some rough cuts, but it is what it is. We'll make do. So I'm gonna start cutting up whatever else is left to cut up on this, and start figuring out the plating and then the bars. So I'll be back. All right, so remember where I left off. I think I left off with I had everything cut and was just getting ready to finish welding up all the unibody, where it's like pinch welded, spot welded. All the panels are spot welded together. I just done a bunch of them. I need to do some more, but this is where basically the passenger side's 100% done. I finished welding everything in. I ground it down, and then I made the plate to go on to tie all the frame back in together from end to end, basically top to bottom. Made the plate for the strut tower. I did this one a little bit different than most of the ones I've seen. I made the plate to close in the upper frame rail, and I wanted to tuck this bar as far as I could kind of out. So that's what I got. That bar comes out to there, which is basically like right almost just barely past the end of the fenders. Without the fenders on there, I didn't really know. We could lop it back, but I'm not going to bother with that. I just have to close in this end once I get the front end back off. But I added in a brace from the upper strut tower to this bar. I know this is tied into everything, but I don't know. I just did it. I don't know. I just did it. A lot of these kits, they come off of here. They'll plate this whole entire piece. And then this upper bar will come off of here and then go down. But I didn't really want it to be, you know, that far in. Basically, what I looked at was the angle of that pinch weld right here along this pinch weld, like the angle of that, and I tried to match the bar as close I could to that. And again, I don't know why my brain works this way, but I just thought that if ever he wanted to tin that back in, he could make it a removable panel, whatever. I doubt that'll ever happen. But I also went ahead. This is basically the factory bracket that comes right there. This piece right here. So I took and I cut it off down there. I got a couple little snots hanging. But I cut it off down there. I bolted it to the fender and I cut it off down there. And cut it a little, I only had to cut a little bit more off of it. And I basically pried the fender back up to about where it needs to be. Because with it cut off and not supported, it basically dropped the fender down to the bar. So I gently kind of pried and looked and took the bow out of the fender. With it sagging, it gave it kind of a bow here at the door panel. This was popped out a bunch. So I pried up on it a little bit, the best I could anyways. Without this being completely together, like having this whole strut in, and it's very, very difficult to see where it should be, but you could see kind of how the fender is popped here. That's pretty much what it looked like on the other side, and then you could see it's raised up in the back here. So it just tells me that there's a bunch of weight pulling down on the front end of this, and if we take and kind of, undid the fender. These are a pain in the butt to get in there too, but oh no, not anymore. Yeah, you can, you know, get the idea of it. The fender drops, and you can kind of see it's pinched shut here, and it's tweaked in, and so I took the front end, I put the front end on it, which of course made it worse. But like I said, I took this piece, I bolted it in, got it to be where I wanted it, pried the fender up, and then tacked this in, and then I tacked this upper strut down to that, and then I kind of let off the pry bar and everything pretty much stayed where it was. So I feel good, like the fenders are really close to where they're supposed to be. And then I added in this one here to keep the fender from pulling in and out. With just this one bar, the fender will still flop in and out, So it's like a triangulated, so it's pretty strong. it won't move. Bunch of measurements I had to write in there, but you can see the fender's sturdy now. Up and down is pretty sturdy, so I feel good about that. Everything on this side is done. It's ready to be painted on this side, and then I will start on this side, and basically again I will match this side to this side the best I can. So yeah, that's about it for Mike's car right now. I'm gonna actually head out now, and then come back tomorrow, and I will get the driver's side 100% done like the passenger side, and then I'll start placing in the intercooler, radiator. We'll have a little bit of room to play with the radiator. The intercooler, I don't want to mess with it so much because he's already got all the piping for it. So I don't really want to move it too much. So the radiator, like I said, it's a small little Griffin radiator, but we can adjust that a little bit. The upper and lower hoses are a lot easier to manipulate a little bit rather than the intercooler tubing. So this car was together. It was a proven track car, street car, like, for whatever reason this thing stupidly worked. And a lot of people know this car. So that's it for this one. Appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think of the Dirty Sanchez. Alright, quick update on the path. I put a strut bar, I don't know, a little piece of round bar from the strut tower to the end of the fender to keep it from wobbling around too much and keep it lined up for the most part, height wise mainly. Side to side, I'm going to leave the passenger side. I'm going to get the tubes done for the, no, I'm going to leave the driver's side. I think I said that. I don't know. I'm going to get the tubes done for the passenger side, and then I can use the front end to basically bolt into that side there, and then get this situated and weld a couple of tabs for the fender mounting. And kind of looking back at it, I got the front end cut off over here, that whole piece there, and then cleaned a bunch of cuts up. I'm gonna go from this edge because this is kind of what the frame rail is, the upper frame rail on the car, in a sense. So instead of trying to cut that out and do all that stuff, I'm gonna plate this off here. I'm getting everything all cleaned up. I kind of went through and quick sanded down everything to get all the paint off of it, and then with the unibody, the way everything is pinched together and then kind of spot welded, like you can see, there's a spot weld, there's a spot weld, there's a spot weld. That's what holds the strut tower to the inner part of the frame. There's like a piece inside, and I would assume it would be that flat that comes, and then they bend it down, but it doesn't quite touch the bottom of the unibody. So I welded all along to tie all the steel together in this front end, and then I'm going to come back in. I'm going to clean up this edge. I had an idea to roll the edge over, but I didn't like it, so I'm just going to cut this edge off, grind it down flat anyways, kind of round this edge over so it's not sharp, and then come up here, and I did the same thing. I welded all the, you can see there's 3 pieces. There's 1, 2, and then the strut tower is rolled to out here. So, and it's all spot welded together. So I stitched it all together. So now all 3 pieces are basically one. I'm gonna go back in and weld this along in here a bunch. I don't know if anybody else does this on Fox bodies when they do tube front ends, but it's what I want to do. I did the same thing over here. I went inside of here and I welded the two seams where these two plates come together. I got one more to do up here, just along this edge. It's just a pain in the butt to get in here and get the surfaces kind of cleaned up, to get a good weld on it. Outside of here was easy. You know, this was easy. I can get a grinder in there. So I'm gonna finish up doing that, and then I'm gonna cut the first bar for the passenger side, and again I can use the driver's side. And what I might do with these is steal this end. So I may cut this end off, plate it, and then put a piece of tubing back on with like a insert. So I'll have two different size tubes, the outer tube, and then there'll be a smaller diameter tube that I weld to the plate when I plate that off, and that'll slide in and pin. This way he can undo a couple of bolts, slide the whole front end off the car if he wanted to work on it. I wouldn't imagine there's a whole lot of bolts on the car holding it together anyways. I know there's like 1, 2, 3 bolts holding the front end on, plus the 2 bumper bolts, if he even has those in there. I don't even know if he has them in there. Wow, headlights are heavy, huh? Yeah, it doesn't help when you cut your bumper in half for a turbo. Holy smokes. There we go. No, so he actually doesn't have any of that inner structure. So there's no need for this piece entirely. But we're gonna have to figure something out to kind of hold his bumper together. These are really heavy. It's all plastic, so I don't know what is so heavy. A headlight assembly that heavy on these cars? Somebody comment. That seems like it is very heavy. Yeah, but anyways, so I won't have to do the insert. Yay. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm gonna get finishing cleaning everything up, finish welding everything, and I'll get the plates made, and then I'll go from there with starting this tube over here. But again, I'll be able to kind of measure and gauge where I need to go off of that side there. I know the radiator sits over here. The intercooler, I'm not exactly sure where it sits. I would imagine it sits in front of the radiator. I got all that stuff up there. So I could kind of mock it on there and get an idea on where everything goes, which I'll have to build a mount for the intercooler regardless, mount for the radiator. So I'm going to get to work on all of that and come back and update on where I'm at.